shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends.
In the center of the center is a light that never ends. Welcome to this mission of being centered today. Thank you for joining us in spirit, wherever you may be on this beautiful earth today. We call in the embodiment of living from our center. It is the mission and purpose of this program today. And I feel really blessed to be offering this with dear, beautiful Reverend Abhaya Cordova. Thank you so much for being here with me, with all of us, and for being that light that continues to shine from the center. Thank you for always being that guiding light for me, at least for as long as I've known you. How long has it been? 15, 16 years, something?
Oh, at least.
At least.
At least. Between you and I, yes, at least that long.
In this lifetime.
Yes, fair.
So I had this vision come to me in November of last year, um, of this program of being centered. I noticed myself, of course, being thrown off center a lot by life. I am a student in the field as much as a teacher from my heart. And I noticed myself getting thrown off center by this thing in life and that thing in life. And then when November came around, it felt like it was everywhere, people being polarized in every possible direction. And at my core, I just really felt like this work matters because like being centered matters because those people that I feel were living from and even myself, when I experienced myself making actions from these places that are polarized over here in one direction or confused and not really sure and over in this direction. I felt that those decisions that I made from those places were not my highest, were not for my highest and best, and were not for my highest and best of those people around me either. So, the world is so fast paced. We live in such, where like actually we're commended on our pace. We're meant to move fast, right? But what I want to offer is this opportunity for us to not feel like we constantly have to do something, actually, and that just standing there until we're really clear and until we're moving from our middle, that's where the true most heart-centered the decisions that we're going to make that are going to be in our highest and best are going to come from our center. They're not going to come from some very, highly polarized emotion over here or a highly polarized decision over here. They're going to come from our core, from our centered neutral middle way, right? Like the Buddha taught us about the middle way, Abhaya, and I would love for you to share a little bit as well about the importance of living from this space. Um, and Abhaya is going to lead us in an absolutely incredible embodiment, centering activation that's going to really help us get in there. For now, let's just quickly speak to Abhaya. Why do you feel like this is so important in being centered and yeah, whatever you want to share about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm grateful that you're bringing us together like this. In my, I same with you. I've been experienced the torrents of life. It's very windy out there. And it's easy to just get knocked off course. And there's a lot of fear, and that making any decision from fear is going to lead to stress, doubt, overwhelm, regret, even resenting, if you've made decisions based on self-betrayal, things that have like gone against your values. It's really difficult to make a clear decision when you're not clear, when the waters are muddied. So allowing some time to be still and get that clarity. And clarity requires us to let go of the idea that we know the answer.
Mm,
You have to let go of what you think the answer needs to be in order to be clear. Otherwise, you're just trying to mold something to your ideas, and some of those ideas are fear-based. So coming into that centered place, letting go of fear, moving into faith. And even if your actions even if you decided the same thing once you got centered, like fear is telling me to do this, but I'm not sure, I'm full of doubt. When you come into that centered place, you may decide to make that same decision that fear was telling you to make, but you're making it with a different intention.
mm,
There's less doubt, there's less disbelief, there's less regret. You're having that clarity. So by the time you make the decision, whatever it ends up being, or you may only think there's one or two choices, and by the time you sit, you may realize there's more choices, or the choice to not do anything is also a choice. And not meaning that you're inept or not useful. It just means sometimes it's not now or not yet, So we're pushing, pushing, pushing for something to happen. And so meeting a lot of walls or meeting a lot of tension because the answer is really just not yet. So, or just wait a minute. Like there's more information to come. So finding those moments where you can recenter in, reconnect inward, reconnect to that inner GPS, to the light that is truly guiding you, will give you much more clarity and answers, and much clearer direction when it is time to take a step.
absolutely, 100%. And what I love so much about what you just said too is that when you make the choice from the center instead of from, what people might call ego or emotion, right? From those like polarized and divided places, is that they're less sticky. Those choices don't come with these like, with like, oh, am I going to think about this later? Am I going to regret doing that? Am I going to, those that inner dialogue, right? That we all have and those many voices in our head, right? But like, what is the definition of mental health? Is just like, I guess my definition of mental health is being in right relation with all of those voices in our head, right? And so when we get really clear and we hear the voice of our hearts, right? Which is our center, is that voice of our heart, our knowing, our intuition. Those choices don't come with all those extra voices. They don't come with the, well, what if, and I shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? They're clear and they're direct, and you just, there's just a knowing that doesn't carry any baggage with it.
Right. And also when you know you're being led from that higher space, it's easier to navigate the next twist and turn because we know they're going to keep coming.
Yeah.
It's like what's my practice now is to go within and ask what's the next priority,
Mhm.
because it feels like it's just an onslaught of things that are important to me that
Yeah.
all need to happen right now. And it's very difficult to navigate when you're already just spread so thin. And I ask and connect inward with what's my role in this, what's my obligation in this, what's my what is it for me to do in this, not
Yeah.
what I think someone else should be doing or it's what is this, what is my role in this,
Yeah.
and what space do I need to hold in this, and
Yeah.
then I'm much it clears those webs of the entanglements that are just pulling us in every direction all the time. And it just gives me a very clear path of this, just do this one small thing. And yes, it's okay to rest right now. And maybe right now you just prepare yourself for what's coming in another couple hours. So it's and allowing that space to be enough without otherwise we use our rest time to feel ridden with guilt or to feel like or to insult ourselves, calling ourselves lazy or whatever words we use to describe our periods of much needed rest. So we call it lazy or procrastinating, or, I don't know that there's so many words that we can use for that. And, but it's not it. You really just need those moments to reconnect inwardly, to not be on the phone, right? To not be like getting those dopamine hits, to not be making the eyes shake, and really go within and letting it be enough,
Yeah.
especially when you are seeking clarity for the challenges.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And, something I wanted to talk about in a little bit, but it feels important to bring it up now too, because you mentioned it, is about going inward. Our society is constantly pulling us outward. Like that's almost the definition of society, right? Is like what's happening over here, who's doing what over there, right? Even our children, even our partners, right? Like even our friends is like, mommy, I want this, or oh, I really think I want to do this over here. Like there's so much externalization in our world, and I feel like that's where society kind of could maybe take advantage of our human weakness in that way. Whereas, like, we are creatures of belonging. Like, we want to belong to society, we want to fit in and be well and have a nice social circle. But we can't do that at the sake of losing our center, right? Of losing what we feel and know within our own being and our own heart and mind connection. Um, like that is where your external reality is going to create the world that you want to see, right? Is when it's from the inside out first, is when we go within first, right? We don't be like, well, what are those women doing over there, or what are those people doing over there? Is like, no, what am I doing inside first and foremost, and then how am I going to bring that out into the world? And so this, it kind of helps us not, maybe jump onto bandwagons that we might see happening outside in society, or different, people just get caught in a lot of externalizing of polarized ideas. And this is our opportunity actually to create sovereignty for ourselves in every single micro moment, right? Like not just about the big things in life, but about what do I want to eat next? And do I want to purchase this thing or not? How am I going to respond to my kids when they're fighting again? Like all of those different things require that if we want to do it in a way that's, serving everyone, which is hopefully this is, we're here because we care and we want to add beauty and love and unity to the world, right? And when we do that from a place of centeredness, then that's, that's where that magic sauce is, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's time for us to let go of the Yoga Sutras call all that externalization, they calls it Bhutana. And so it's a part of the mind that's just always going out, out, out.
Yeah.
And what we look for in the yogic teachings and in a lot of different scriptures is what they call Narodaha, which is that moment of stillness. It
Yeah.
says it in the so many scriptures, be still and know that I'm God.
Yeah.
Go in and take a moment to be still. Those things, that's a valuable practice that reaches across so many faith traditions. And it's not something that our current, we're culturally challenged. Our society, we're really just distraction and buy and so much advertising onslaught going on all the time, and it just scatters your energy, scatters your attention. And even just like those quick moments, even on the phone when you're scrolling, how many things do you visit in a moment? It's just, you can be all over the world in just a few swipes.
Mhm.
That really scatters our attention. And really, that's one of the most powerful things that we have is our attention, what we put our attention on. And it's a commodity. It is the most valuable commodity.
Mhm.
They pay thousands and millions and billions of dollars for your attention. And so for you to take back that power of your attention and put it inward on yourself, saying, I matter. The world is going to tell you all the time you don't matter unless you have this or that or this. And you just have to turn it inward and say, I matter. My attention is inward on myself. And so that enough is really valuable for anybody, from small child to middle age to older. That attention is so important to put it on yourself, not in a selfish way, not like, oh, you're being selfish. No, it's that literally when we're scattered, we end up like, it's like confetti on the timeline. We're focused on anywhere but here, and it's exhausting us. It's just absolutely depleting our reserves all the time, where we don't have the attention to give where it really matters because we've given that attention everywhere else. And what it leads to, unfortunately, is apathy. It really puts us in a numb, depleted, exhausted state. And so, what I'm hoping to share is like how to really come back into nourishing your heart space and becoming a self-generating field, being able to self-generate again, as opposed to looking externally for the things that you need to regenerate your own mental, emotional, and neurological space.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. It's a very challenging time, and I want to say it always has been.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just different. It looks different. There's different players, different characters,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this is a human experience. This isn't like
Right.
just our experience in this time. This is a very human experience, right? That's been reaching for thousands of years.
That's right, 100%. And, I mean, part of why I felt so called to inviting you into this program too is because of your yogic experience. And, I've been also studying and practicing yoga for a very long time too. And the first line of the Yoga Sutras, right? Yoga Chitti Vritti Nirodha. Yoga, like, why is yoga so popular in our culture, right? It's because we need this. Yoga means to unite, right? But what does that mean more than just to unite? The first line of the Yoga Sutras, yoga, chitti, vritti, nirodha. So there's four words. Chitti is the the all the voices in the mind, right? Like the busyness, right? Vritti, nirodha. So it's about seizing the variations of the mind, right? So it's about knowing that the mind, again, how old are the Yoga Sutras? 5 something thousand years old. This is a human experience. These teachings have been around for so long to help us understand. And this is why I think yoga came to the West in such a powerful way that it did, because our Western society does gear more towards that, right? Just like the busy, the fast paced, external validation. And that's why I feel like yoga came in such a huge rush, because like we need this, right? But it's not about standing on your head and like doing cute poses. The essence of yoga is calming the variations of your mind. That is it. That's it. And you do whatever poses you need to do to get into a position where you can calm your mind, right? Like that's the basis there. And so just calling in that tradition. I just even feel like the word yoga gets so overused in our society now. But if people really understood what it was about, it's about healing the main wound that we have right now is that division and polarization. And so I want to call in that essence of yoga that is here, not for us to wear cute clothes and look cute and take pictures of ourselves standing on our head. It's to get centered, unite all the parts of ourselves here now in this moment, like you said so beautifully, and then express and live from that place.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. So I found this picture and I just really, really loved it. Um, and I was looking for something that kind of just kind of showed what that human experience feels like a little bit, right? It's like we don't get a manual when we come in. Our parents certainly don't get manuals. Nobody does. We're figuring it out the best that we can with what we're given. It feels like we're constantly walking this tightrope, right? And so here is an opportunity for us to just like reflect a little bit on what areas in our life personally pull us off center. Like if we're doing good and we're like, all right, I'm having a good day, I've been feeling really calm, I've been making good decisions, and then all of a sudden you notice, wow, I just snapped at my kid, or oh, I just went and had, you know, a pint of ice cream without even really thinking about it. Like, where are those moments when you feel, oh, I'm getting pulled here and I'm getting pulled in this direction? And it's just, it can, so we can notice it somatically, right? We can notice it with tension in our body. We may be clenching our jaw, or we get into a really shallow breathing pattern instead of just like a nice, relaxed, longer, deeper breathing pattern. Um, or maybe, those voices are starting to go of like, well, what if this and what if that and da 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 and over here and right. And
Mhm.
so this is just our moment before we get into the really like into the meat of the somatic experience of bringing us here. Let's just kind of get into that icky of what it feels like to actually get pulled apart, because this is what life feels like, right? It's like, oh, there's this thing over here and this here, but I'm trying to balance on this. And at any moment, sometimes it feels like the littlest thing, a look from a stranger or a text message that maybe we interpreted the wrong way. All of a sudden, the next thing we know, we're like, boom, we're off, right? And so I just think this is an important opportunity for us to reflect on, the difference, just being aware of how we can catch ourselves, like when we're feeling that getting pulled off. What can we, how can we just foster more awareness towards those places that pull us? Does that make sense? Yeah, you want to speak to that?
That's a pretty accurate picture that you found, because it just feels like we're strung up, like, and it's even all the good things that could be good stressors, like being a mother, like what a multifaceted journey that is, or working, working in the home or outside of the home. It's even the things that are good in our lives can still be stressful. And it doesn't mean that we're not grateful. It's just that they are also stressful. So, and there's a lot on our plates. So we got to just let, allow ourselves that opportunity to admit that we're overwhelmed, and it doesn't take away from the immense blessings that we also have.
Mhm.
There's hardships in all of it. And when you feel yourself like pulled in all those directions, what you're going to notice is that the nervous system will, you have a few of those nervous system patterns, your fight or flight, right? Which you're going to feel like, you get that burst of energy. And then you're going to probably go into like a shutdown if it's too much, or if it's too much at once. And that can look like being peaceful, like, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine. No, no, I'm at ease, but really you're numb and dissociated. So you got to watch for that, or you're trying to control the externals through fawning, and so thankfully, we have some of that information now that we didn't have 20 years ago, we didn't have 30 years ago. Our parents did not have that information. It's been really revolutionary to have some of the information that we have access to now. But again, we're still in an in information overload, right? So I can say these things, but it doesn't, we can see the patterns, right? Where we notice them maybe in others or start to notice them in ourselves. But in those moments when you're not in a clear thinking space, it's all very real. I'm really going to fight you. I need to leave the situation now. I'm really shut down. I'm really overwhelmed, or I'm really people pleasing, trying to make sure everybody else is okay, right? It's a very real experience. We can understand it intellectually. However, the patterns and the way our nervous system responds to situations is it's very difficult to break free from those things, and without the tools and without a lot of self-compassion,
Absolutely.
because yeah, we do want to do everything. Yes, we do have the ability to have access to everything. However, life is life, and we're one person, we're one person, and we just have one moment at a time, a one moment, one moment, one moment strung along in infinity, if we're, but in those, each of those moments, they break them down even smaller into quanta. Quanta is a choice point. So within every moment, you have a choice point. And so and it really doesn't take that long to access your pivot. When you feel yourself going in the wrong direction, or you feel like yourself going in 20 directions at once, where you get into that freeze state and you just feel, say, paralyzed, or that I want to say laziness sets in, or you really need to rest because your system's been flooded with stress hormones, that you just can't make a clear decision, and you're just ready to go along with whatever anybody else says, like, yeah, sure, take the car. Yeah, what? Oh, I forgot to ask where they were going. Like, that's when the brain fog sets in, because your system's completely overwhelmed and flooded. So the practices that I'm going to share is it really, after you get used to it, it only takes a few moments. Okay,
Hmm.
so because this is what we're facing many times a day. It's not like, oh, once in a while I get stressed out. Personally, I get stressed out many times a day. That what you had said about a phone call or a text message, or seeing something, or just turning on the news, or someone's rude or uses a tone, or honks at you on the road, it puts your body into shock. You go into shock.
Yeah.
And so it floods your system with chemistry, that if we're not truly running, all the blood supply goes out to the limbs, and we didn't circulate that chemistry out of our body. So now it's just sitting there, and that's like high stress movies, turning on the news, driving your car, playing video games, being on the phone, scrolling. We're not moving. And then the body doesn't have anything to do with that chemistry getting out of the body.
Mm.
So I'm not going to do a physical practice today. I'm going to show you a mental practice, because there are a lot of times that we are needing to be sitting. Like if you're in the passenger in the car, right? That's a lot of stress, can be just being a passenger.
Mhm.
It's hard if you're a driver to do the practice, but I just tend to pull over and let myself do the practice and get myself back, so I'm not driving while dysregulated, because a lot of people are. So it becomes like a little practice that you can do that'll just reset some of the deeper shock patterns that we can come up against throughout our day-to-day life.
Absolutely. And it stops us from being on autopilot too, right? Is because when those things happen, again, society is just like, keep going, like next, but like your nervous system doesn't work that way. Society may work that way, but your nervous system doesn't. So, you may think that you need to just keep going. I'm just autopilot. I'm going to keep going, whatever it is, but you don't ever give yourself a chance to regulate around all of the multitude of things that happen in the course of a day. So,
right?
Yeah, super
And it starts to consume the mind.
important.
And
Yeah,
then we're just running from one distraction to another,
yeah,
and without any real inner clarity or inner connection.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, and we do need to keep pressing on. We do need to keep doing the next thing. We're in this world, we're productive people, life just keeps coming at us. But that's why we have to revisit this regularly so that we are at baseline peace instead of baseline centered instead of baseline chaos,
Yeah,
which starts to become, oh, that's the new normal. It's just to be in chaos all the time. And it's like, how do you navigate that if you don't have an inner connection?
that's right. That's right. Absolutely. And it's not to say that some polarized things aren't important, right? Like, here's some, I'm just going to kind of list off a few because it's important to understand that, like, stillness is just as important as movement. So I'm not saying, like, don't ever be still or don't ever over move because that's polarized. Those are ends of the opposite. That's not what I'm saying. Or, giving and receiving, right? There's always this back and forth, expansion and contraction, holding on and letting go, action versus rest, light versus dark, right? Like we've got the yin yang, right? We all know that the universe is made up of light and dark, and within that light there's a little bit of dark, and within that dark there's a little bit of light, right? And like this tightrope is kind of like that line in the middle of the yin yang, right? Like we're constantly trying, like, and meant to balance between all those polarized things, not just completely jump into all light or completely jump into all dark. It's really about finding that middle way. And whether you choose stillness or you choose movement, it's that you're choosing it from your center, right? If you're choosing giving or choosing receiving, it's that whatever that choice is coming from your center point, even if it is, a polarized thing like giving and receiving or holding on and letting go, is if it comes from your center, you've integrated it, like you've depolarized it in yourself first, and then it comes out into the world with that unified vibration.
It's a lot to hold.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot to hold. You have to have very long arms,
yeah,
like, but you know what, if you're going to hold a lot, guess what? You need to be balanced,
that's
so, and
right.
you need to be able to check in with those cues to know when you're about to like lose everything, when you're
Yeah,
about to lose it, let's just say, we do, because then when we lose it, there's a lot of shame involved. There's a lot of hiding, shaming, blaming, and then that is going to be even more toxic to your body than because now we're hiding, we're shamed. It's a lot, and we're apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry again. I'm sorry I lost it again. So like those things that if we can prevent, in that preventative care, it's not just physical, it's preventative mental health,
yeah,
preventative emotional health. We have to be able to pick up those cues before we break. Breaking is painful for everybody, including our families and our work situations. It impacts society. And we want to bend but not break, right? Because it does happen. We do break. We have those moments, and that's not the goal. The goal isn't to break you. It's to how can we find resilience, meaning like we have a little bit of space to bounce back, okay, rather than continuing on that trajectory, from a frightened, shocked, broken space. We want to pull it in, give back to ourselves so that we can hold the vast amount of things that we're required to balance in this life. And it happens, there's no judgment. I'm coming here from a ongoing learning process, an ongoing learning journey, to see what's possible, having been through so much myself. So, and what has helped, because there's a lot in this world that has not helped me. And so I want to share the things that have, because
mhm.
they are simple and they're accessible to everybody. So,
Yes, beautiful. All right. Well, with that, do you want to jump in? Do you feel ready to
yeah,
guide us into your embodiment practice?
yeah. Maybe why don't we play that little song for a moment,
Yeah.
and we're gonna, oh, it's not gonna pull up on me for me right now. Never mind. Um, we're gonna go ahead and stand up, okay? Because now we've been sitting here for just a little bit. So we're gonna do a little bit of standing, and you might not be able to see me completely. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get my whole body in this shot, unfortunately. But I'm gonna verbally explain some of the things that are important, okay? And if you don't have the opportunity to stand, you can do this from a sitting position, okay? But I need to stand. I'm just gonna move a little bit, and so if you feel comfortable too, we'll stand, okay? Let's see if I can turn this so you can at least maybe sort of see me. You won't be able to see my legs, but you'll be able to see my upper body. Okay, so we're just gonna start by just shaking out the legs, okay? And then just reset the breath, all right? Even just like shaking out the wrists a little bit and just shrugging and dropping the shoulders a few times, okay? And this just to kind of get your body moving, and just give yourself maybe another like 5 to 10 seconds and just move in whatever way feels right for your body without trying to control it, without trying to make it look like anything, just letting things move the way they need and want to move, right? Following and trusting the wisdom of your body for just another couple seconds. Okay, very good. And a lot of times, if you're in your head, if you're stuck in your head, you want to get down to your feet. Okay, so just shift your weight onto your left foot, and you're just going to clench and open the toes on the right foot a few times. Keep breathing. There's a wonderful feedback loop from your foot to your brain. And in the toes and the metatarsals of the foot are connected to your lungs and your heart, if you look at it through a lens of reflexology. So just a couple movements through those toes, okay? Shake, same thing other side, reset the breath. So left foot is gonna extend out, point and flex the toes, make some circles. Notice if you stop breathing and bring the breath back. And again, just a couple moments, clench and open, keep breathing. Okay, it's simple, but even just for those few moments, you sort of break the spell of the mind, okay? So let's go ahead and sit down. It doesn't take that long, and you could have done that sitting, but I find that a lot of tension gets held in the hips. Through the hips, you have so many deep arteries and nerves and stuff like that. So just even sometimes that moment of standing and just shaking some things up is gonna help with resetting or getting the chemistry that's stuck here or here and just moving it to flow down through those larger muscle groups. Okay, simple, right? Just simple, but keep your feet involved. If you're working a lot or driving a lot, then open and close your toes, okay? It's really helpful. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just place the right hand on the sternum and breathe. And start to just notice if your breath is shallow or if it's deep. Regardless of how it is, right? You're just noticing it. And then gradually start to exhale a little deeper than you normally would. And then let the breath return when you're ready. Exhale to empty, let everything empty out, even pause, exaggerate that emptiness a little bit at the bottom of the lungs before the breath comes back in. Okay, so if you start to notice throughout the day that your breath is getting shallow or you're talking a lot, you're starting to run out of energy, then go into a moment of silence, start to exhale. What exhaling is going to do is it's going to reconnect your kidney and your heart energy. Okay, so when you go into shock, which sends you into that fight or flight or freeze, right, or any of the nervous system patterns, it's usually like a shock, right? Something shocked your system, and then you had to try to figure out how to regulate yourself through one of those patterns that you've become accustomed to. Okay, and so to come out of shock, you need to reconnect the heart and the kidney. And in order to do that, you have to exhale, empty, 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 like really exaggerate it. Imagine like it's like an elevator pulling the energy from the kidneys up to the heart. So just notice that for a breath or two. Okay, just go at your own pace. Okay, and then we're going to place the left hand on top of the right hand so that you have both of your hands centered at your heart. And you're going to keep breathing deeply. And then gently bring your attention to your eyes. Are they off to one side? Are they shaking? Are they moving around in the head? Right? Whatever your eyes are doing, your brain is doing. Whatever your brain is doing, your nervous system is doing. So something you can do very easily is check in with your eyes. Give your eyes some attention. And you're just going to bring your attention to your left eye. Notice what the left eye is doing for a breath or two. Even just noticing how the eye is listening to the breath. And then start to shift your attention to your right eye for a few moments. Okay, your eyes are part of your threat detection system. So if you perceive threat, your eyes are going to be wild. They're going to be all over. So that's one way to notice if you're in that sort of very, very shut down space that looks like I'm just resting, but your eyes are all over the place, or they're really hard pulling to one side or the other. You might be in a state of shock, okay? So even just bringing your attention to each of the eyes and breathing is going to help your systems calm down. And then you can bring your attention back equally to both eyes and give your eyes a focal point. So you're looking down toward the tip of your nose. Keep breathing. And then gently lift your eyes so you're looking more towards the bridge of the nose for a breath or two. Take your time in each space. And then lift your eyes so you're looking towards the inner corners of your eyes. Keep breathing. And then gently look up to the space behind your eyebrows and in the space between your eyebrows. Still breathing. And then just relax the inner and outer corners of your eyes, the backs of your eyes, so that your eyes slightly look inward and upward. So they're looking right at the back of your forehead. Keep breathing. Noticing how the space behind the eyes is listening to the breath. Behind the eyes is also your pineal gland. So that when your eye muscles go in and up, it's going to calm the pineal gland, which is your major endocrine gland, which is sending the chemical messages to the rest of your body about whether or not you're safe. So when the eyes are all over the place, you're sending the message to your endocrine system that you're not safe. Okay, so this is going to help recenter even your body's chemistry. Okay, still breathing. Next, you're going to bring your attention to your tongue. Keep your tongue in your mouth, and you're going to stretch your tongue to the far back right behind your teeth and just hold it there. And keep breathing. When your tongue moved, notice if your eyes moved. Recenter the eyes looking in and up. Just the tongue is going to move. Okay? The tongue is connected to your pericardium, which is a fascial sac around the heart, which is signaling to your immune system also whether or not you're safe. So it's important that we take some time to stretch the tongue. Okay, so next you're going to bring the tongue back to center. Keep breathing. And then we're going to stretch the tongue to the far back left. Hold it there for a few deep breaths. Okay. As you're holding it there, just keep breathing. The tongue is also a vehicle for the thoughts, right? So when we talk, we're speaking our thoughts. So if you want to calm the thoughts in the mind, when they start racing or get too overwhelmed, then you want to, again, stretch the tongue, which is going to send the signal to your heart, to your immune system, that you're calming down. Okay, bring your tongue back to center. Keep breathing. Then you're going to put the tip of the tongue at the space behind the teeth, resting on the palate. Keep breathing. Then slide the tip of your tongue to your mid palate. Hold it there for a breath. And then bring the tip of the tongue to the back of the palate, reaching it all the way back. You can reach to where the hard and soft palate meet. There's usually a little ridge there. Just hold the tongue back there and start to listen to the breath at the inner ear. Notice what the breath sounds like at the right inner ear. Still exhaling to the bottom of the lungs. And then listen to the breath at the left inner ear. Still breathing gently, rhythmically, and notice any changes in the breath as they show up. Okay, now listen evenly through both ears for another few moments. Okay, and then we're just going to think the ah sound. So you're going to take a full deep breath in, keep your tongue back if it's still comfortable for you. And when you exhale, just think ah, which is the sound of the heart. Take your time. Two more just like that. Try not to rush the bottom of the breath. Just exhale that ah all the way to the bottom space. Okay, and then just stay here for a few moments. And just notice how you feel. Okay. And when you're ready to, you can release the tongue lock. Keep breathing. Feel your hands at your heart center. Feel your feet on the floor. Still breathing. Still exhaling to the bottom of the lungs. Okay, and then slowly, slowly you can start to blink your eyes open. Once the eyes are open, keep breathing. If when your eyes open, your breath changes, just close your eyes again, recenter the breath, and try again. Because even sometimes that moment of opening the eyes can give us a little bit of like that shock, so just be patient with yourself, be patient with the bottom of the breath, be patient with opening your eyes, okay? All right, and then you can just come back into this space, okay? You can just rub your hands together a little bit. All right. All right, very good. And that'll help calm the brain. I usually just brush my hands off like this, okay?
I love that.
Feels nice, just a little moment of that calms the brain. They have so many signals in your hands that just some of that, so if you're in a place where you can't close your eyes, you can even just rub the hands or just be aware of the hands can help.
Mhm.
Okay, and just notice how you feel.
Mm.
Changes everything so quickly.
It does
Right?
indeed. There's so much more presence when we have our touchstone. And so let this be our touchstone. We have access to it all the time, 24/7. Your center is always there. It's always waiting for us. That was what kept coming to me during that, was just like, I'm always here. I'm always available. It's always there, even in the hardest moments. Right? And like you said, if you can't close your eyes, or even just putting one hand on the heart,
Mm-hmm.
you know, moving the eyes upwards, any one of those things you can choose in any moment to use as your touchstone when you're feeling yourself getting pulled over here, pulled over there. Bring it back in. Any one of those techniques, right?
Yeah, or yeah, even just the breath, like to empty out the exhalation when you feel this going on, just exhale, focus on exhaling. That's like, it helps with like if you're having an asthma attack, if you're having a stress attack, if you're having, because we can be allergic to stress.
Mhm.
So, and that'll just inflame you. Literally, you feel inflamed The mind inflames, the thoughts inflame, the tone of voice changes. So when you can exhale, that's great. And guess what? When your mouth is closed, nobody knows what your tongue is doing. You can
Mhm.
keep your eyes open. You can be fully present and do your tongue stretches. Nobody knows. Just I put my tongue back a lot, especially when I want to listen to somebody. I want to be, if we have a tendency to interrupt, So I know I have some troubles with that sometimes. So I've learned just put your tongue back and guess what? Your ears open. And then, and you're more present and you're breathing and you're able to be more receptive to what's happening without having to interject, without having to control, without having to, always have your opinion in the ring. It doesn't always have to be in the ring. So it's sometimes it's nicer to listen to what other people need to say because usually they need to say it.
Mhm.
I know what my values are, and it's just not having to always have to prove it to everybody else. So just practice a little the tongue back. It, like I said, it'll stretch the base of the throat. Right in here is where energetically where we can hold shame. And how much shame do we hold from saying the wrong thing, using the wrong tone, not holding our tongue, right? Not holding our tongue, that's let the pull it back, not causing a fight, not exacerbating a situation. But that's all here, right? This is all thyroid. And then in here energetically we can hold shame or spiritual pride, which is not the same as boastful pride. Our spiritual pride sometimes gets fed when we hold our tongue, okay? Because we're patient, we're compassionate, we're listening, especially for our children or people who need that empathy and support, which this world's so greatly lacking in at times when we're not in the right amongst the right people. And then knowing that that base of the root of the tongue is going all the way down to that fascial sac around your heart, the pericardium, which is, like I said, it's signaling to your immune system, am I safe? So when your heart starts racing and your breath gets shallow and your tone gets, sharp or loud, your body hears all that and it's going to respond accordingly. So even, like I said, even if you can't close the eyes, if you can exhale, even if, like Christy said, just hold the heart center if you can. Sometimes it's not always appropriate, right? So another way we can hold is hold the middle finger. So if you're just resting your hands in your lap and you feel like it would be awkward to just suddenly put your hands on your heart, like you're in a meeting or you're around mixed company, that it's like, you're trying to still be like somewhat like, fit in. You could just like you can lightly hold a finger, hold your middle finger actually. It's interesting because this is your pericardium finger if you look at it through a lens of Chinese medicine. So when you don't feel safe, what goes up? So you just hold it. Same way you would hold your tongue, you would hold your middle finger. And that's going to calm your pericardium as well. Okay? And you can switch, you can hold each one. And honestly, any finger you can hold, okay? But if you want to know the pericardium one, it's that one. Okay, in the middle of the hand here, pericardium 8, where the middle finger touches, right? You can also massage that. That's pericardium. So those little things that can be really helpful when you're in a high stress situation or amongst other people around you that you can't like get away or just, you know, go into a meditation. It's not always possible, but there are little things that you can do that could help bring you back to your center. But like I said, even just feeling into your feet will get you when all that floods, like it floods quick, right? Then get down into your feet, keep breathing, clench and open your toes a few times. We've got some nice liver points in there. There's so much going on in the feet. Spleen is connected to the mind, all of that running through the feet. So it can really help just when all of the energy rises up and you're about to say the thing and you're going to regret it, then you just able to hold your peace a little bit more. You're supposed to cherish your peace a little more. You want to just give it away. When you spend so much time cultivating it, you realize how precious it is.
Well, I love that you talked about the feet because I added a slide here in about
Oh,
the
perfect.
because what really occurred to me as I was sitting with this offering that wanted to come through about being centered, there's the things that we can do, the things that pull us into, what I would consider, I guess I've never really thought of a name for it, but I guess I would call it my soul center, like my spiritual center within my human body. But
Mhm.
as I started to kind of just unpack a little bit more about what this means to be centered, I couldn't help but stop thinking about the earth and how she is our center as well, and how another aspect of society that is not serving us is deeply disconnecting us from the earth. And she has a core, and her core is connected to our core, right? And so she is in Mama Gaia, our Mother Earth. um, she is really trying to help regulate us, right? Like if we slow down enough and put our bare feet on the earth, or hug a tree, or like even just hold a leaf in the palm of your hand, you can feel that slowness, right? There's that famous quote about nature. um Nature does not hurry, and yet everything gets accomplished, right? And so this is just one of those medicines of remembering that not only does society want to disconnect us from each other, from ourselves, and from nature, right? But the medicine of remembering that we're always interconnected, no matter what society tries to do or tell us or say to us, or even if the earth changes, like we're still connected. She's got us just as much as we've got her. However the law of gravity works, it works, and it keeps us on her, and for very good reason. She knows how to spin. She knows how to turn herself in just the right way, just the right cycles, and just the right seasons. And there's no judgment, right? And then leaves die in the fall, and then flowers bloom in the spring, and it's just all meant to happen on that timeline. And so if we can just continue to embody the lessons of Earth, and remember that at all times she is centered, everything she does revolves around that axis, right? And then we have to develop our own axis, and not only to ourselves, but to each other, and especially to Mama Earth. So those foot exercises, all of those things, but honestly, just go and put your feet on the earth. Like, there's nothing more powerful than that, in my opinion, to really help just quiet the noise. Go sit in the woods for 5 minutes if you don't have access to that. A tree, a blade of grass can teach you just as much as a beautiful forest can, right? It's all that same energy of just taking our time, slow and steady. We're on our mission. The grass isn't trying to like shoot up before, it's just like, no, they're all just going in their own way, in their own time. And it's that medicine of moving from center. When I think of Earth and I think about how she expresses in all her ways, she does it from center. Everything happens from there. And so she can be our teacher just as much as these amazing yogic teachings, and any other tools and tricks and hacks. Like I have a tattoo on my arm. Why do I have this tattoo? Because it reminds me it's one of those words that helps me remind me of my center, of my like my big picture here, right? It zooms me out rather than just getting caught again in those variations of the mind. So I love that you're talking about feet so much, and I just really felt called to putting a picture of feet in,
Yeah.
in this, because it's really, yeah.
Yeah. And there's such a big part of our feet that maps to the brain, and we're cutting off that resource every time we put our feet in shoes, rubber soled shoes, squeeze them into shoes, where some people, their shoes hurt them, and they're constantly sending a feedback loop to the brain of pain. And if we're not getting the toes spread wide, just imagine this is my foot, right? In this metatarsal region of your foot, I'm trying to make it more foot-like. This is all connected to your lungs, okay, in the foot, probably in the hands too, but my mind, I'm thinking about the foot right now. And the ball of the foot would be the heart. And so when that's constricted all the time, and in pain all the time, and your breath is shallow, there's a huge feedback loop of fear happening in the body of I'm not safe, my breath is shallow, I'm in pain, and we're just walking around like that's normal. And a lot of people are having lung issues. There's a lot of grief in this world, which is where the lungs are trying to process grief. From a Chinese medicine perspective, I trained in shiatsu for many years, and I share the Chinese medicine perspective in my yoga classes. But from that Chinese medicine perspective, the lungs are the yin to the large intestine's yang. It's all about letting go. And a lot of people are having trouble with constipation. And it's that lung, large intestine, not breathing deeply. It's affecting our blood sugar, which is your pancreas is right there, your liver's right there. There's so much that's so important with the breath, but also that feedback loop to the feet
Mhm.
that ends up being cut off from the Earth's natural healing properties through the electromagnetic field of the Earth. Our heart has its own little electromagnetic field, its own little toroidal field. So when you place your hands here, it actually starts to regenerate some of that heart energy. When you're fatigued from overgiving, fatigued from too much attention being scattered everywhere, you need to replenish your heart, your own toroidal field, your auric field around your body, so that you're not so permeable.
Yeah.
It's not, your immune system is not just protecting you from bacteria and viruses, it's protecting you from so much, right? Your boundaries, right? Being able to say no, right? That's your immune system too, and also having discernment, what to say yes to and when and why. All of those things are part of the immune system. So when your immune system feels weakened, you'll see that there's poor boundaries also with just not knowing what to say no to. So it's something that we want to continually be regenerating so that we're strengthening our field, on every level. Every cell has its own little toroidal field. So it's important. And one of the best ways, you're absolutely right, Christy, is just getting out there, get your feet on the ground. On the bottom of your foot is your kidney one point. Your kidneys are the battery of your body. So when that's blocked all the time and we're not getting enough fresh hydration, we're starting right there to throw ourselves off from we're exhausted, depleted, over caffeinating, dehydrated. And a lot of that, again, it's that disconnection from the earth because we're not pulling our energy from the earth. We're trying to get it from somewhere else. We're trying to get it artificially.
Mhm.
So all of those things, after a while, they've thrown you off center, that becomes the new normal. And so we have to start to find one choice at a time, bring ourselves back to some sort of deeper balance with harmony with the earth and within ourselves. It's that we're not separate, right? We're nature. We've been plucked out of nature, but we're nature. We're earthlings, so we're part of nature.
Yeah.
We've got rocky terrain. We've got beautiful waters all within us too. So we are totally connected to this beautiful life force that's flowing around us. So we got to get back to that.
Absolutely. And each one of us is so different and so unique, and it's going to look different for each one of us. So somebody who is more kinesthetic, right, can actually go put their feet on the earth and rub their hand, as compared to somebody who's maybe more auditory, and then maybe you find, a guided meditation that works really well for you, something that you can listen to, or for visual people. There's actually a toroidal field visualization meditation that I do that helps me a lot. It feels actually kinetic and visual for me, which really helps. And then it activates that central, right, that shushumna, like that central part within us rather than the extensions of us. So it's essentially just you're just visualizing that toroidal field with your in and out breath. It comes in down through your head, you breathe it down, then it goes out through your feet and up and back down around again, and you actually just see and move that energy, visualize it whatever color you want. This is where it's like we're not here to, you have to do it like this. right? You find within your constitution and your own unique personality and likes and desires and history and experience, you find the different things that are like, okay, I know that I carry crystals with me. I went to the dentist last week and I'm like, sorry, just 1 second before you start, I got to go grab my crystal out of my purse, right? And like I held that with me because I know that a crystal is going to help me, just that the again that electromagnetic energy from the earth that's held in the crystals, I know that helped center me. And so I held that crystal. I was getting two cavities filled and it helped my anxiety. It helped the variations of my mind settle down and I could just be more present, just allow what needed to happen. And so whatever we are drawn to, the point is that we keep those, they're low-hanging fruit. We have to keep them available for us at all points because we never know when something's going to throw us off, right? I also keep some essential oils in my purse with me. One that particularly I know for sure, if I start to feel that, like for me, it starts here, and I'm like, and I start to feel it coming up, and I'm like, where's my oil? And I just take my oil, a few deep breaths of aromatherapy. Ooh.
Mhm.
And again, that's the earth, that's nature, those are plants, that's the aromatherapy is plant medicine helping us calm that chemistry, right? That Abhaya so beautifully
Yeah,
illustrated for us.
absolutely.
So, we're not telling you what this needs to look like. We're just here to guide you on all of the different tools and remind you that this is possible and make it, and hopefully help us, just inspire us to want to move from that place. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I think and disrupting where you're at, like if you don't like where your brain is, like where your mind is,
Mhm.
if you're not enjoying where you're at, then knowing how to change a channel becomes really important. And if that looks like, hey, I can't meditate, I don't want to meditate, I have no interest in meditating, totally fine. Put on some music, dance around a little bit, find some music maybe that doesn't even have lyrics, and that way you're not pulled into another memory, another rumination, or another concept, because music is very powerful. Some of those words hit deep, and they create another groove in the mind. So finding some music that is, some upbeat music is fine, or slow, depending on where you're at, and just dance. That movement is going to change your story in that moment. It's going to bring you into presence. For me, I just layer them all on. I'm going to take some stones. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to move until I'm ready to be still, because going from life, 100 miles per hour, and then just sitting is not the best idea. What happens when you put on your brakes, right? Everything floods forward. So we want to make sure that before you sit for meditation or try to find your center, that you get all that energy off of you and start to change the patterns. That shaking up that we did, that movement, that little bit, you could do that for a few minutes. There's no limit, and you might be done. You might not need to sit for meditation, but you've changed the shape of your body. When you change the shape of your body, you change the shape of your mind. You change your story. It's like an etch-a-sketch, right? I know everybody knows what an etch-a-sketch is, right? So when you have all those patterns, you just got to shake them up, and then they're not there anymore. And it would actually take you a little bit of time to recreate that groove. So, and you might be like, I don't want to recreate that groove. I was not enjoying my experience being in that groove. So just literally, people used to say, shake it off,
Yeah.
but it started to become dismissive.
Hmm.
It becomes like, oh, I don't care about what you're thinking or saying or feeling. It's dismissing the person. But there's a lot of truth to shake it off. Okay. But from a compassionate place, from a place of like, this is actually physiologically going to help me. This is what animals do in the wild when they're being chased by a bear and they're so stressed out. They hide, or they fall and they play dead, right? Which is what we do. We go into that very dissociated state. And then when the threat passes, they shake it off and then they continue their life. But we need to use some of those techniques that that are there, are physiologically accessible, and just shake things up a little bit so that you're not in those same patterns,
Yeah.
those same grooves that are self-destructive, I want to say, or self self-deprecation, self-deprivation. Once you're in that space, it can start to be too familiar,
Mhm.
and it seems like that's what's expected of me, especially if you've been praised for those things in the past,
Mm.
like praised for being a giver. Oh, she's just generous, so selfless, she just gives, yeah. So we get it, even like that praise of something that's good about us can start to become self-destructive, because we're not giving from the right place. So I'm going to say one more thing because it's right there, which is when you take care of yourself, right? When you go into that centered place, your giving is coming from a different place. You're not giving, it's not transactional anymore. You're not giving to get. You're giving because you're full. I have so much to give, and I'm in a centered, loving place. Great. I love that. As opposed to I'm giving so that I can get something in return, or I'm giving so that I can be okay. You're already okay, and you're already full. So it's no longer, your giving is not manipulative or transactional. And that changes a lot in your intention, and also it frees you so that your center is more pure, and your giving, even your actions are more pure, and that alleviates a lot of all this stuff that gets built up too. Okay, because now we're not giving like I gave to you and where's mine, so it's you're receiving from a different place, a different source.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And we've all heard that famous old saying of, doing the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity, right? And this is our opportunity to just get in front of that, disrupt those patterns that are out here and out there, and the string up there, and the news over there, and then this over here. And it's saying, no, no, I'm going to disrupt and do something totally different. My kid is yelling at me. That's okay. I'm going to press on the middle of my palm. And before I yell back, even though every part of my body wants to yell, I'm going to do something different this time. I'm going to breathe and ask if we can have a redo, or I'm going to breathe and, just I'm literally visualize that headline leaving your brain. Visualizations help a lot for me. And so I'm like, oh my God, I just saw that headline. I just saw that picture from the news. And I literally visualize it leaving my brain. And that's what we need to do sometimes. And again, any of those low-hanging fruits that we can use that will help us access this middle path, because the middle path is the way to wisdom. We've known this for thousands and thousands of years. The extremist here, the extremist there, they're not progressing forward in ways that are really advancing the highest and best of society. But those standing and pausing and coming from their center, their heart space, those are the ones that are really creating the most positive, effective, and heart-centered change on this planet. And I'm committed to being one of those, and I know Abhaya, you are as well. And my prayer is that this class and this program can offer you an opportunity to feel passionately about that as well, instead of reacting here, or, making a, polarized or divided choice there, that we can find a way to inspire each other to continue to live from the center, from non-judgment, from full compassion and unconditional love, not just for each other, but first and foremost for ourselves, and then expanding that outward.
Yeah. And we want to enjoy our experience here, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So that
So
quote that I shared on the Facebook post, I loved it. I was like, show me quotes about being centered. And I found this amazing one. And it was, enjoyment is the sound of being centered, right? And I
absolutely.
love that you used that word enjoyment before too, because
It's
it's
absolutely right. And it again, like, these things are meant to be experienced. If we just say them, people can take it out of context because not everybody's there. It's like, oh, you just don't know, you don't understand. No, no, we do actually. It's life has not been easy, and I'm assuming it's not going to start getting easy personally. It's life.
Mhm.
But how can we enjoy it along the way? I don't want to just succumb to thinking that it's just never ending. It is, but it's until it does, right? That's terrible. But I just we want to enjoy it as much as we can for as long as we have. And if that's just little glimpses here and there, right? You just take a glimpse. I always like to use that light bright analogy. It's like there's a field of darkness. My references are very 80s. I apologize, like 80s toys. But like you poke a little hole in the light, you poke a hole in the dark field, and then there's a little spot of brightness. And then you do it again, and there's a little spot of brightness. And you just keep doing that. And as you do that, after a while, a really beautiful picture emerges. But you have to pause. Those little pauses, those little moments of Narodaha, they bring a bright light to you. And then you give from that, until you can hold the light. When you have a candle and it's windy out and you want to keep that candle lit, you want to go a little slower. You're going to maybe hold your hand over it. You're going to make sure you keep that candle lit. So as you're starting to develop a new practice like this, you might want to just go slower. Maybe you're not holding as much for a period of time. You start to figure out how to prioritize better. There's a lot of practical things you might need to do as well. But just cherish that little light when you know that it's there. You protect it from the wind a little bit better. You might not want to go out on the windiest day. Maybe that's the day you keep things closer to home. So that by the time it's a nice day, your candle didn't blow out and you can really enjoy it. So you just little by little, and after a while that becomes your new baseline. But you have to visit there frequently. After you visit there a bunch of times, it becomes like a place that you're familiar with, that I don't even have to look at the directions anymore. I don't need to plug it into my GPS. My inner self knows. And
Yeah.
you start to know very quickly when you've gone off track. You're like, nope, my stress is starting to go back. My heart is doing this. It's like you don't live in that space of chaos anymore. You're like, nope, I just need a second to come back and then proceed from there. Because it happens quick. I'm just from my own experience. And when you're trying to retrain your nervous system, retrain the mind, retrain your own inner perception, it takes a little bit of regular pausing to reconnect to that until it becomes natural again, because it's become so unnatural that we just have to retrain ourselves or recommit to finding that space regularly.
Mhm. Mhm. Uh-huh. Yes, we do. Yes, we
Yeah.
do. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your teachings, reminders, remembrances. And yeah, may we take these and may we shine a new light and be, be the change we wish to see in the world, right? We don't like the division and polarization that we're seeing, so let's offer something different to every single person we encounter. First and foremost, ourselves. Let's make sure that we're not just doing this for the other people in our life so that we can be more calm and peaceful with them, but we're doing this first and foremost for our internal environment, right? So that our internal environment is at peace and calm and ease, and then it will be reflected in all of our external environments and the places that we choose to put ourselves in. So,
Thank you, Christy. I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving us this space to share.
absolutely. I feel like the time being centered is the medicine of now. As much as we only think that we're given two choices, or it may seem like life is just one way or the other, there isn't. This middle way is a beautiful path to take. It's a choice that we can all make at any moment. And I invite you to take that choice with me and live from center so that we can be the one shared humanity that we know we are and that we're meant to be. So thank you. Let us heal this divide in our society. Let us become more united in ourselves, in each other, with nature, and with all that is. So I give thanks for the inspiration to bring this through. I give deep thanks for Abhaya, all of your teachings and sharings. And yeah, and I give thanks to my own inner wisdom for knowing that this is something that is meant to come through me. And I have, marinated on this for quite a few months, and it just feels really, yeah, just expanding to be offering this. So thank you for being here. Thank you if you've made it to the end. I really appreciate it. And may this bring more centered peace, calm, and ease to you and everyone in your life. Thank you.